Good morning and welcome to Daily Red Devil for all of your latest Manchester United transfer news and talk. And as always, we're back with another massive show to bring you guys this morning. But before we jump into that, please do smash a like on the video and please do subscribe to the channel, bottom right hand corner. So on the show today, we're going to be, of course, reacting to Manchester United's 4-3 loss to Copenhagen in the Champions League. And we will be discussing, is this the end of Manchester United's Champions League run? We'll be talking about that. We'll be getting some of you guys' opinions and reading them out and stuff. So make sure you get your comments in. We'll also be talking about Rafael Varane and ultimately trying to come to some sort of conclusion about what's going on with him, because lots and lots of bad body signs yesterday, lots of bad body language. We will be talking about that. We will, of course, also be talking a bit about Antony, who looks set to stay at Manchester United. So lots to get into. Do get involved in the live chat, get involved in the comment section, and let me know your thoughts on everything we discuss on today's show. So let's start off with a bit more talk about the game last night. Obviously, I did my match reaction straight after the game, and I've seen some other people, and they're literally, some of the reactions I've seen, I don't know. I just think I think some people are really, really taking that result badly last night, and I honestly don't think we played that bad. I don't. I think it was one of our better performances this season, and I just think we were incredibly unlucky. And I'm not usually the type of person who makes excuses. I'm not usually the type of person who blames the VAR or the referees, because I think it's a little bit pointless. If you play well and then you feel like you've been robbed by the VAR, I think it's then worth mentioning. When you're Arsenal, right, and you lose to Newcastle, they didn't play particularly well. I think they had one shot on target, and then they have a goal which is, they concede a goal which is maybe questionable, and then all you hear about is Arteta moaning. I think that's pathetic. But if your team actually play really, really well, which I think we did for large portions of the game last night, and then we ultimately get robbed by refereeing decisions, I think then at that point you can talk about it. Now, those decisions I want to bring up are these. Now, I don't know if any of you saw this, but Copenhagen's second goal, I've seen clips of it on Twitter all morning, right? As the Copenhagen player takes a shot, there's a Copenhagen player stood in an offside position directly blocking Onana's view. I mean, honestly, you couldn't make it up. We had a disallowed goal on the weekend, didn't we, for something absolutely ridiculous. What was it? What did they call it? I can't remember what they called it, but it was the first time it had ever been given, wasn't it? It was against Fulham. What do they call it? Like a conceptual offside or something stupid. But anyway, so last night, Copenhagen player blocking the line of vision of Onana, stood in an offside position. Another Copenhagen player then shoots and gets it in the goal. And it should be offside. It should. In the Premier League, that would be offside 100%. And the fact that the VAR don't even seem to check decisions against us, that's the thing that frustrates me. And then another one, I assume you guys all saw this. So one of the Copenhagen players is on a yellow card, right? He tries to kind of head to get the ball. He's got his arm round Rasmus Højlund's throat, and then he elbows him in the head. I mean, it literally is the most blatant elbow I've ever seen. They don't even check it. The guy's already on a yellow card. I just think we were really, really unlucky last night. I think the penalty against us was a penalty. I have no arguments about that. Obviously, it's soft. Their penalty was soft, but that's the rule in the Champions League. If it hits your arm in the box and your arm's raised, no matter how close it is to you, it's a penalty. It happened to Christian Eriksen, didn't it, against Bayern Munich, I think it was. It's soft, but that's the rule in the Champions League. And in some ways, I actually respect it, because there's no question marks about it. If your arm's up and it hits your arm, it's a penalty. There's none of this like, oh, is it close? Is it too close? Like, you remember back to the Tottenham game, right? In the Premier League, it hits his arm clearly, but they don't give the penalty because they say, oh, it's too close. And then a week later, exactly the same thing happens to us and they give a penalty. That's what I don't like about VAR in the Premier League. It's not consistent. Although it's frustrating in the Champions League, some of the handball decisions, I do think that they are consistent with it. I think it's a little bit soft, but I have no disagreements with that. But this morning I'm just feeling more, if anything, annoyed. Not with the players, not with the manager, but with the refereeing. I think the refereeing was terrible. I really, really do. I think that the Marcus Rashford red card was not a red card for me. I think that, as I said, this player, I'm looking at the clip now on Twitter. He literally elbows Rasmus Højlund in the face. Vivero, number 3 he was for Copenhagen, literally elbows Højlund in the face on a yellow card. Not even checked. Their second goal shouldn't have been a goal. And it's just frustrating because not only were we down to 10 men, but we're playing against the referees as well. It's just really, really annoying. And it's one of those ones where no matter how well we play, I just don't understand how we're supposed to win these games. Somebody saying, is the mic low? I'm not sure. I can turn it up a little bit if you want. Let me know if that's better. I've just turned it up a little bit. Let me know if you're happy with the mic volume now. Let's see what people are saying in the chat this morning. Al says, if we were better, the refereeing decisions wouldn't matter. We should be better. Take the ref out of the game by playing better. I get that, mate. But being 10-0 down, being down to 10 men 30 minutes into a match away from home, like that is difficult. No matter who you are, that is a very, very difficult game to then manage. Somebody says the game was a disgrace. The players are fools and totally useless. Okay, so you've got a slightly different attitude to me this morning. Sue says it's just not good enough. Weak mentality. This lot, same excuse, been like this for years. I agree. Jude says we are finished. FC Copenhagen ? So I assume you're upset. Of course, I get it. People are frustrated. I get it. Cobra says we played well. The red card changed the game. Anything else being said is just nonsense. Yeah, I would agree with that. I do. I think we were very, very unlucky. And I don't usually blame referees. I don't usually blame VAR decisions because I think it's a little bit pointless. As Danny says, we got robbed. We played well. I agree. I think we did get robbed. And I had this thought this morning, right? And this is a bit of a conspiracy, but I'm going to run with it anyway because why not? We've had so many bad decisions against us in the Champions League this season, right? We did. Last night we had the red card, which I don't think was a red card. We then had Copenhagen's second goal, which if you watch back the second goal, as I said, a Copenhagen player is in an offside position blocking Onana's line of sight. That should be a disallowed goal. We then had the Rasmus Højlund elbow to the face. That should be a red card. None of that went our way. In every other game in this group as well, we've had similar situations. And I think that, I don't know, this is just obviously, I'm not sure if I fully believe into this, but maybe they want us to be in the Europa League. Like, maybe that's what UEFA want. It's a possibility, isn't it? Because it can't just be a coincidence that all of these decisions are going against us. Like, it's really, really weird. Obviously, us being in the Europa League will bring so much money to that, so much attention, so many people watching the TV. I just think that maybe that's what's going on here. Obviously, I'm not saying there's some like malicious act against us, but I just wonder whether, UEFA, etc., benefit more from Manchester United playing in the Europa League than they do in the Champions League. I just had this thought this morning. I know it was probably me just feeling frustrated, feeling like we'd been robbed. And I thought, why are all these decisions constantly going against us? There wasn't a single decision that went against Copenhagen yesterday. The penalty they gave away was a penalty. The penalty we gave away was also a penalty. Adam says people keep mentioning the Wolves decision and even out through the course of the season, but since then we've been brutalised by the refs again and again. Yeah, we have, mate. We've had one decision that went our way that shouldn't have, and then since then we've probably had, I'd probably say at least 10 decisions that shouldn't have. You think the Garnacho goal against Arsenal, you think obviously the red card last night, the penalties, all of these things. Let me know what you guys think. Jude says the season is crumbling before our face. Onana will concede 100 goals at the end of the season. Okay, fair enough. Al says, should Erik ten Hag go mental at the refs to pressure the refs to be more fair? Pep and Klopp know how to work the refs. Yeah, I would agree. I think he does need to put more pressure on the referees. We see Arsenal's Mikel Arteta pretty much crying after the game against Newcastle the other night. He made it all about himself. Richie says, you make your own luck, fed up with excuses. United's players capitulation again. Weak in midfield and defence. Mentality is weak with these players. I would agree with all that. And I've seen a lot of people criticising Erik ten Hag on my timeline this morning for not making a substitution straight after the Rashford red. And you know what? I actually disagree with them because I think what a lot of people have forgotten is that in a match, you can only have 3 substitution windows. So he'd already made one because obviously Johnny Evans had been injured. If he'd have made another substitution at 30 minutes, right, when Rashford got the red, then he would have only had one more opportunity to make subs. What happens if he gets an injury? Like, what happens if he wants to make tactical changes? I think it would have left him in a bit of an issue. And maybe he was a bit naive thinking we're 2-0 up, we're playing way better than them. We can hold on till half time. And I think as well, 13 minutes added time, that was questionable for me as well, but it is what it is. Red Devils United says, yesterday I saw positives from the game. We will improve this season once everyone is back. I would agree with that. I definitely would agree with that. I did see positives. Taiwu says, Erik ten Hag can't handle the team anymore. He needs to be sacked. Enough of this mediocrity. You're the first person in the chat this morning that wants him gone, but that's completely fine. That's up to you. That's your opinion. We can have differing opinions, and I'm not going to, criticize you for that. For me personally, I don't think sacking Erik ten Hag is going to make any difference. Is sacking Erik ten Hag going to bring back all the injured players? Is that going to, bring back Casemiro? Is that going to make Varane better? I don't think so. I think it's just going to, put us back to square one. It will set us back another 16 months. But I did want to, everyone who's just joined, actually, please do smash a like on the video if you haven't already. Please do subscribe to the channel, bottom right-hand corner. I'm just going to sneeze really quickly. Oh, gosh. But I wanted to talk a little bit about Raphael Varane, because I really think that there's something going on wrong with Raphael Varane at the moment. Obviously, let's go back to the beginning with Varane. Let's kind of refresh our mindsets, because I think it does need a bit of context, really, about what has happened here. So anybody who is unaware, obviously, he was dropped for the Man City game, and Erik ten Hag was asked after the match whether it was an injury, and Erik ten Hag said no, Johnny Evans is playing for tactical reasons. Now, apparently, from what I've been hearing from different journalists, apparently that didn't sit well with Raphael Varane, and it didn't sit well with some of the more senior players in the dressing room. So you probably are thinking like the Casemiro types, the people who have, the serial winners who are looking at that situation thinking, why are you playing Johnny Evans over Raphael Varane in probably our biggest game of the season at home, which I would agree with, to be honest. I think, Varane in his prime is levels above Johnny Evans. So it was a questionable decision from Ten Hag. I get that. Obviously, he's thrown onto the pitch last night, 30 minutes into the game, because of a forced injury to Johnny Evans. And I just think his body language looked terrible. When he came on, Erik ten Hag didn't even say anything to him as he was going on. He kind of like touched his back, and Raphael Varane like shrugged away. He didn't look interested. Even when he was on the pitch, I would say it was probably his worst performance in a Manchester United shirt ever. He didn't look interested whatsoever. Every time he got the ball, he was playing terrible passes. I think the third goal for Copenhagen, Raphael Varane should have just kicked it long, and he kind of scuffs his pass and then doesn't even go after his man. And I really think there's something going on here, and I think that we will probably see Raphael Varane leave in the January transfer window. I have this feeling he's probably going to look to go maybe to somewhere like Saudi, I think. Somewhere where, let's be honest, it's maybe a little bit easier, because I think, he's always complaining about the amount of games. He's only 30 years old, remember. He's retired from international duty because of, the workload, because he can't play that amount of football. And I think that, his time at the top level is gone. I think he needs to move on. I really like Varane. I think he's probably one of the best, defenders, centre-backs we've had in the last 10, 15 years, I would say, or at least in the last 10 years. But I definitely think that he needs to go. And I think that what Erik ten Hag's trying to do here is, I think he's trying to get rid of some of these more, older, less physically active players who are on ridiculous wages. Remember, Varane's on £350,000 a week, and he needs to bring in younger options. He needs to bring in someone like Todibo, someone like Tapsoba from Bayern Leverkusen. Some of those types of people need to come in. And I think that Varane knows that. I think they've had some sort of conversation, and I think he knows that in January he's going to be allowed to leave. Let me know what you guys think about that, though. Obviously, it means that Manchester United would then go and buy a new centre-back, most likely Jean-Claire Todibo. But yeah, I would agree with everybody in the chat saying it is time for him to leave now, I would say, because, as I said, he's been one of my favourite players since he came. I remember being at the Leeds game 2 seasons ago when they unveiled him, and he was, honestly, it was one of the biggest buzzes I've ever had in my life. But, he can just about play one game a week at the moment, and can't even really do that, to be honest. Like, we can't be paying 350 grand a week to somebody who can literally just about play 90 minutes. And even when he did play yesterday, he was really poor. Like, Maguire was levels above him yesterday, let's be clear. And Maguire, everybody in this fan base was trying to get him out of the club with pitchforks in the summer. So I think we need to, use that same mentality to all players. We need to be fair across the whole board. If we think there's something's not right, we need to actively look for better. And I think that, getting rid of Varane and bringing in Jean-Claire Todibo would be the most logical solution. Maguire, whether you like him or not, I think you've got to keep him till the summer. He stays fit. He works hard. Yes, he's not the best player, but he gives 120% every time he's on that pitch. And I think he has been quite good in the last 5 or 6 games. Again, I would still look to sell him in the summer, but I think for the time being, we need to rely on him. Let's see what else people say in the chat. Let's have a look. Cobra says, sulking on 350 grand a week. What a disgrace. I agree. Richie says, Ten Hag is falling out of too many players. It's obvious with Varane. I would agree he is falling out of a lot of people, yeah. But I think the thing is, right, Erik ten Hag's that really, really strict teacher that you had in school. And if you get on the good side of them, you have a really good relationship with them. They really help you to better yourself. But if you piss them off, ultimately, then I think that, you're out. And I think that's what's happened with some of these players. They've fallen out with him. And I think he's one of those types of people where you have one chance. If you mess up with Ten Hag, he just gets rid of you. Whether or not you think that's correct, that's obviously up to you. I quite like it, to be honest, because I think Ronaldo never should have come back to Manchester United, to be honest. Like, when you look through all the things that he's done, Ronaldo, one of the greatest players of all time, if not the greatest, one of my favourite Manchester United players of all time. Yes, it was really exciting when he came back, but that should have never happened. We should have been buying a younger striker, or even two younger strikers for the type of wages we were paying him. But instead, we went and signed Ronaldo. I had no issue with Ronaldo going. You think of people like Casemiro, you think of people like Varane. All of these people are shirt-selling signings. They're brand signings. They're not players for the team. They're not players who are going to be here for 10 years. But let me know what you guys think about that. How do you think Erik ten Hag's man management has been so far? I think last year he was being really, really complimented on it, that Antony had come in and had a relatively good season. Wan-Bissaka had improved massively. Rashford was, in his best form ever. Adam says, at 3-2, Mourinho would have parked a bus. Yeah. The thing is, though, right, is it Erik ten Hag's fault that these players have got such a lack of mentality that as soon as the going gets a little bit tough, they all just crumble? That's not Erik ten Hag's fault. The same thing happened under Mourinho, happened under Oli. It's happened under all of our managers over the last 10 years. And you have to look at the players at that. You can't just keep blaming the manager. Lucky says all Ten Hag wants is to send away players. He is the worst coach we have had in history. I mean, mate, he's the second fastest to 50 wins as a Manchester United manager. He's got to 50 wins before Sir Alex Ferguson. I think a lot of fans kind of forget about how Sir Alex Ferguson started at Manchester United. He was nearly sacked on multiple occasions. It took him years to really start bringing success. So I think it's easy for you to say, oh, he's the worst manager ever, blah, blah, blah. But if you look back to how Sir Alex Ferguson's career started at Manchester United, it wasn't all swings and roundabouts. It was difficult. It was turbulent. But I know a lot of fans who were born kind of after that era almost forget about that. They forget that there are literally newspaper articles that you can still find on the internet today if you go and have a look, saying that Sir Alex should be sacked and all the rest of it. So I'm not saying that Erik ten Hag's going to be as successful as Sir Alex Ferguson. I obviously don't think that. Like, Sir Alex Ferguson, I don't think any manager in world football, or at least in the Premier League, will replicate what Sir Alex Ferguson did, because he is going to be the greatest manager of all time in the Premier League. Pep Guardiola's come in, yes, he's done well, but he's not going to stay in the Premier League for the amount of time that Sir Alex did. I wouldn't be surprised if Pep leaves in the next few years, but I think it's quite unfair to say, that Erik ten Hag is at fault for all of this. I just think it's a little bit of a scapegoat. I think, as I've said to you many times before, not for this particular performance, but just in general for the situation of Manchester United, my finger will immediately point at the Glazers, then it will point at the people running the club, the CEO, the non-existent director of football, then it would point at the players, and then it would point at the Glazers. Point at Ten Hag at the bottom. Fred says, ask yourself who is in the present squad would make your all-time Manchester United team. None of them. Not a single one of them. Not a single one. Not a single one. Welcome, Jack. Hope you're doing well, mate. Yeah, not a single one of those players in the current squad would make the all-time Manchester United team. Genuinely not one, I wouldn't say. But let me know if you disagree in the comment section. Scott says, I'm leaning towards Erik ten Hag leaving. He's destroyed the positive energy in this team. I actually disagree with you, Scott. I think there was a positive energy last night. I think we went into that game. I think we looked good. I think we could have been 4 or 5-0 up easily if we hadn't got that red card. We completely dominated them. They were completely shook. I was talking to my friend when the game was on, and I said, those Copenhagen fans must be embarrassed that they've got this banner up saying, welcome to the theatre of hell, or whatever it said, right? And it was like a walk in the park for the first 30 minutes. And I think all that, Copenhagen were doing, which is quite interesting and clever, was they were just waiting for Manchester United to make a mistake. Rashford makes the mistake, albeit a soft mistake, and then they get back into the game. It was very, very clever from them. They knew that if they just sat back, let Manchester United have the ball, that Manchester United would do something wrong, and then they'd be able to get themselves back into the game. Jude says, we're losing too many games and we're sugarcoating it with excuses. Obviously, everyone's entitled to their opinion, right? If you want Erik ten Hag out, that's up to you. That's completely fine. I'm not going to tell you that your opinion's wrong, because that's not what I do on this channel. Everybody can have their say. But if you genuinely want Erik ten Hag out, let me know what your plan is. Who's going to be the new manager? Who should that manage? What kind of style of football are we going to play? Who should be the director of football? Who would be your first signings that would suit this style of play for this specific manager? Let me know, because just sitting there saying get rid of Erik ten Hag and bring in who? Who do you want? Sam Allardyce? Graham Potter? What's the plan? How long are you going to give that manager before you want to sack them? You're going to give them 6 months? If we lose a game, are you going to say sack them? I'm all open to having differing opinions. You know, this isn't a dictatorship. This is a community where we can all have a say and all have an opinion and discuss it as all, like for like, on a level Manchester United fans. So just let me know your thoughts and I'll read it out. I will say this though, okay? Because I know people say, oh, you're too soft on Ten Hag, you're too soft. I would be shocked if this happens, but if we lost badly to Luton on Saturday, obviously we play Luton 3:00 kickoff on Saturday. If we lost badly at home to Luton on Saturday, 2-3-0 to Luton, I would then question whether the players have down tools, and at that point, maybe then Erik ten Hag's job would be on the line. I still wouldn't sack him personally because I think it's just going to set us back even further, and I think that the blame needs to be, as I said, pointed at the poor ownership, the poor management structure, the John Murters, the Richard Arnolds, the poor recruitment teams, the players who have got a weak mentality, and then the manager. But obviously, the easiest person to get rid of is the manager. They can't sack a whole team, can they? They can't say, all of these players that we've recruited are, let's be honest, average and have a weak mentality. Let's sack them all. Like, it doesn't work like that in football. You might get rid of a couple every year, but it's literally impossible to get rid of all 20 plus players in your squad. Let's see what else people are saying in the chat this morning. Taiwu says it's obvious Erik ten Hag has lost it with the players. Richie says, Luton at the weekend. If Erik ten Hag doesn't win that game, Erik ten Hag will then be questioned and under immense pressure. Sorry, judged by results, and we're not getting them facts. I agree with you on that one, Richie. I do. I think if he doesn't beat Luton on Saturday, that will be a big issue. 100%. I definitely agree with you there. Hendrik says, my question goes to Ten Hag. Why is he benching Mount and Antony if they cost us a lot of money? Because they are rubbish. I don't get why they joined in the first place. Højlund is the best of the signings of the transfers. You know what, right? I think that a lot of these transfers were actually, done by the board. I think the Mount signing was very confusing, and I think that Manchester United kind of decided that they were going to sign Mason Mount. They thought, there's a good lad here. Obviously, he's marketable. He's English, which I know helps in a kind of in a marketing perspective and from the homegrown quota. Obviously, you need X amount of people who are homegrown players, and he is one of them. And I think that they kind of just put him on Erik ten Hag because it's clear that he doesn't want him in the team. Otherwise, he would start picking him. What else would be good? Al says, how good are Luton? Competitive. I watched Luton against Liverpool. They were quite good. They were all right. I mean, we still should be beating them, but they parked the bus and they hit on the counter-attack. They've got obviously Tahith Chong, who scored a goal against Liverpool. I was quite impressed with them. I thought they defended well. They're going to park the bus and they're going to hit on the counter. That's literally it. Joel says there is no way that Mason Mount was part of Erik ten Hag's plans. No way. I would agree with you, mate. 120%. No way on earth. Let's see what else we've got. Let's talk about Antony really, really quickly then. So Fabrizio's come out saying that apparently Antony will be staying at Manchester United. He's not going to be leaving. Let me know what you guys think about that. I definitely think we looked a lot better last night without Antony personally, but it is what it is, isn't it? Like, fair play to Erik ten Hag for dropping him. I think we looked way more stronger. Obviously, Rashford's now got a red card, so he'll be out of the Galatasaray game and the Bayern Munich game. So there'll be no Rashford in those matches. I imagine it will probably be, it could either be Antony and Garnacho or Pellistri and Garnacho. Hopefully it's Pellistri and Garnacho. I think that would be an interesting idea. But I imagine Antony will probably come back into the team with Garnacho moving over to the left-hand side. But let me know what you think about that. I'll read out a couple more of your questions. Somebody says the first goal is offside. Yes. And we've had 3 disallowed goals this season. Yeah, it was offside, mate. It was. It's frustrating. It is. And are we going to get an apology? No. But I'm going to wrap the video up here, guys. Please do make sure to smash a like on the video before you go. And please do subscribe to the channel, bottom right-hand corner. I will be back live at 6 p.m. UK time. If anything breaks between then and now, as always, I will go live. So make sure you hit the notification bell. This has been Daily Red Devil, and I'll speak to you all a bit later.